recently tearing my ACL, I have become quite knowledgeable about tearing your ACL, what your ACL is, the symptoms, and just the basis of it. I tore mine 2 weeks ago, I believe. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I'm having my surgery May 7th. I completely tore mine. I have a high pain tolerance, so at first I really didn't think I tore it because it just felt extremely better afterwards until I started walking, and then it just went downhill from there. My knee swelled up and became extremely unstable and painful, and because of this, I decided to research online to kind of see what my symptoms were and why I was having them and what it could possibly be, because going to the doctor is a pretty big deal for a broke college student because it's extremely expensive, and I try to avoid it if I really don't actually have to go there. So throughout this speech, I'm going to let you know just what it is, like what your ACL is, the symptoms, the causes, and how you can treat it. Technically, it's called the anterior cruciate ligament, and it's mainly popularly known as the ACL. It's located in your knee, and your knee is made up of 3 different bones. It's kind of like a hinge of your femur, your tibia, and your patella, and your patella is your kneecap, which I did not know till today, so don't think I'm a genius or anything. Your kneecap is held together by 4 tendons, which is your MCL, your LCL, your PCL, and your ACL. The MCL is on the outside. You have one on each side of your knee. The LCL is it's also on the side of your knees, and it kind of helps your sideways motion. I don't know how to exactly explain where that one is. And your ACL and your PCL cross like this inside of your knee, and it pretty much keeps the movement going back and forth and side to side stability, and it prevents your tibia from sliding in front of your femur. So it's a pretty big deal if you were to tear it. And a sign or a symptom that you possibly tore your ACL is mainly a pop whenever it first happens. I had 3 when mine happened. And other symptoms is you can have swelling, you can have motion, like your motion, you lose a lot of it, and you can't straighten it or bend it as well, and going side to side is very painful because it just feels like your knee is sliding out of place. You're very discomfortable when you walk because it just feels like your knee keeps hitting the front, and it buckles sometimes or gives out whenever you're walking. And what possibly could cause you to injure your ACL the main ones or are rapid pivots, like if you were to just turn real fast, that could possibly tear it, or if you accelerate or decelerate pretty quickly or suddenly, you're landing from a jump or direct contact with another person, which the girl came in from the side of me and just pretty much knocked my knee the opposite way it's not supposed to go. And athletes are mainly the higher risk for tearing them. I'm not saying they're the only ones who tear them, but in basketball, soccer, football, and skiing are the main 4 that are liable for tearing their ACL the most. Females have tended to tear their ACL more than males because they didn't have exact facts. They just had mainly opinions because it's not a proven fact yet. But it does say that they said ligaments are weaker, or we have more petite bones is kind of what they said, so it's not as sturdy for us whenever we're applying pressure or running or doing activities. If you do injure your ACL, you need to ice it for 15 minutes and then 10 minutes off while you're at home. Wrap it with an ACE bandage. That helps kind of keep the mobilization a little better, because you don't want to put a brace because it just makes it, it makes it stiff and just makes your mobilization worse. And there are 2 routes you can go if you're trying to fix your ACL. You can either go the non-surgical route, which you can just ice it and just do physical therapy and just kind of work your knee back to regular. But that's mainly if it's partially torn, but if it's fully torn, you mostly have to go the surgical route, and that is what I'm doing because mine's completely torn. And what they do is they put 3 incisions in your knee, and they pretty much replace your ACL with another tendon. Most of the time they'll take it from your hamstring, which is the most of the time is what they do, which is what they're doing with mine, and they just take a little bit off of it and put it as your ACL. And then there's other tendons. They can take it from your kneecap tendon, which you're pretty much any other tendon in your knee they can take it from, but hamstring is the most like sturdy. They can also do a donor, which is what my sister did because she tore hers about 4 months ago, and I'm racking up the bills for my parents. So she did the donor, and I've heard that it's kind of sketchy to do because you don't know who you're putting in your body, and it has way more side effects than if you were just take some off your hamstring. Sometimes if your hamstring's too weak, they won't do that, so they end up having to do a donor. If you do the surgery too early, like me, I lost a lot of my range of motion because I did not put pressure on it and I didn't walk around. I just kind of let it be stiff and use crutches, and so now I don't have enough range of motion to do surgery. And you have to be able to bend it 90 degrees and then flatten it 80%. Compared to your other legs, you have to be able to pretty much have it like almost flat, and mine's not even close. So he gave me 2 weeks, and I have to just pretty much stretch it out and make sure that I can flatten it and bend it. And because if you can lose a lot of knee motion if they try to do surgery while you don't have your full motion. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying I know everything there is to know about the ACL tear and like symptoms to treat it. Obviously, there's 10 times more ways to treat it, and there's more symptoms, but that's just the basis of kind of what the majority of people have happened to them whenever they do tear their ACL, and mainly what happened to me. So speaking from experience, I'm just kind of giving my just doctoral advice on what I would say it is and how it's torn, and from my research online on how to treat it, the causes, what it is, scientific names for what it is, because I did not know those, and then also how you can treat it. And I hope you guys are a ton more knowledgeable in tearing your ACL.